We live at the peak of human civilization, with what was once considered science fiction technology. We have a front row seat to an era of uncertainty. There's a growing concern over a dystopia, as technology and political power struggles grip the world. Yet it's in these times of darkness where we learn and grow the most. Today, millions of parents and educators around the world are asking the same question. What now? How do we prepare in a world of uncertainty? For generations, the traditional path to success was clear. Get good grades, ace your SATs, and then join the cycle of industrialized civilization. We are taught that making more money, having prestige, and a fancy title will ultimately make us successful and fulfilled. Perhaps for one reason or another, you don't fit into this traditional system. But rather than living a life of frustration, we can muster up the courage to do our own thing. Most people aren't taught to find their own thing, and few get the chance. Mental models are important. They ensure continuity, structure, and order in society. But many of the mental models for work and learning were designed over 100 years ago for an industrial age. There is an unspoken and largely unconscious bias about how work should be done. COVID has forced the Great Reset. Countless articles and news stories have examined the changes in consumer behavior and highlight that work and learning will never be the same again. Virtually overnight, millions are working from home, and this means unlearning and relearning will be a key principle in this new economy. It's better to anticipate what's coming than to adapt to what's already here. Many students are wondering if the educational system truly prepares them for an uncertain future in 2040. From student debt to economic uncertainty, the rules one should follow about what makes success has become redefined in an area where education is as much a signal of privilege as it is a measure of qualification. People feel disempowered by a structure that was designed for an entirely different time. And so many are wondering what to do next. Conventional advice was helpful for generations that had time to adapt. Let's look at what's changing. How is it different this time? How we work is changing. Economic opportunities are more diverse, but concentrate around areas of information technology as software begins to eat the world. AI is increasing at exponential rates, and it will be assisting and augmenting human capabilities. Where we work is changing. In the past, there were corporate headquarters, long commutes, and cubicle farms, and that was common. Today, many professionals are working remote, even before COVID. In fact, there's over 7 million digital nomads living and working from RV travel trailers to living out of Airbnbs. COVID has shifted the behavior and priorities for millions of people. When work is changing. The 9-to-5 grind is a staple of the industrial era. Ever since Henry Ford's assembly line in the 1920s, we now live in a post-Ford era. Today, knowledge workers and employers are realizing that spending hours staring blankly at a screen, pretending to be busy, isn't necessarily helpful for anyone. Work also doesn't just happen 9 to 5 anymore. It happens at all hours, across multiple time zones and locations. And even the rules of work are changing. Traditional education focused on knowledge, whereas information was scarce. Knowledge was kept in buildings or in teachers' minds. Today we keep information in our pockets, and so we have to realize our just-in-time and just-in-context learning is how we will operate in the future. Qualification has changed. University degrees used to be the main doorway for employment. Today, employers are looking for critical thinkers and self-starters that are keeping pace with change. So lifelong education will be critical. Google, Facebook, and even the federal government are preferring skills to credentials. Today, it's about developing digital and soft skills, collaborating with teams from all over the world. Traditional job searches require searching classified ads in newspapers and employer-controlled interviews. Today, the process has changed. We have online portfolios, crowdsourced platforms, code challenges. Old rules won't work as well as they did in the past. When we go through difficulties, we are open to new possibilities we hadn't considered before. We have an opportunity to question the status quo and perhaps reimagine what the world could be. The ingrained ways of thinking, these mental models, have served us for generations based on how work should be, and it was once believed that these ideas should never be questioned. The future of work and learning is binded. It is linked together. Pre-COVID education was a bundled value. But in these times, education has become unbundled. The allure of higher education offers students the credentials, the skills, and the campus experience as a bundled solution. But with billions in infrastructure and 80% of the budgets coming from student enrollment, they are now thrust into an online world with the biases of an old world mentality. And they're competing with TikToks, YouTube, and not to mention the responsibility of children in everyday life in a pandemic. Most importantly, the social currency of attending a university has become unbundled from the campus experience due to COVID-19. People as scientists. Productivity as a mental model deserves some attention. When examining traditional models and discussing new ones is one of the first things that come up. How does this new way of thinking affect productivity and profits? The mindset around productivity in the past was that there was a set human capacity for output. This view was looking at people as machines. The employer's mindset was how many pieces can be produced, at what human capacity, and at what cost. The aim was to continuously reduce the cost to increase the effectiveness of humans. From a machine model point of view, that makes sense. It makes more money for the employer. But I'd like to challenge the assumption that output is the goal. Maybe it's not about turning people into machines for productivity. The real goal is to solve problems effectively. In the past, compartmentalization was part of the organizational design. We segmented workers away from what results are. So it's no wonder that today we have people focused on processes instead of problems. In all honesty, we don't know human potential. Maybe measurement should not be based on outputs, but instead results. And what we really should be looking for are more agile and inclusive ways of working. The mindset is people as scientists, empowering workers to understand the complete problem so people know how they're going to get to the solution together. When you become problem-centric, you get far more results instead of just looking at the costs at each step along the way. This is the difference in a mindset between a scarcity versus an abundance mentality. And it's what Carol Dweck calls the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. There's nothing wrong with a fixed mindset, but it becomes harder to adapt when there's continuous change. How work has changed. In the past, it was about mechanical muscle. The pace of change in the past was incremental, and we had decades to make the transition. Today, it's about mechanical minds. Now we're undergoing a shift in the blink of an eye. In 2015, where this chart ends, to today, we now have everything from YouTube celebrities to crowdsourced platforms to even professional cuddlers as new work options continue to emerge. So much of the world's potential is limited and slowed because deep down, all of the modern world's infrastructure is built on foundations created during the 1970s and 80s, when computer power and data storage was really, really expensive. We're finally beginning to rethink and rebuild our foundations. With diverse industries being born, we can't forget about the economic realities that are exacerbating problems in society, problems that affect everyone. The challenge as new work options emerge is that the benefits of automation have not trickled down. Since 1973, there's been a divergence between productivity and hourly worker compensation. This means that while it's easier to get a job at Uber or shipping boxes at Amazon, it's nowhere near as sustainable as the jobs of the past, where a household could be supported by a single earner. After the Great Recession of 2008, we saw an increase in underemployment. This is where people are paid less and many want to work full-time, but they aren't able to. It's likely we'll see a similar trend emerge during this COVID crisis period as well. In a world of continuous exponential change, we need a new set of mental models. Today, many workers don't feel connected to their work. In days past, being connected or being engaged with your work would be dismissed as a useless idea. And long ago, people didn't necessarily love what they did, they just did it. As my 86-year-old father likes to say, he worked to fill his belly. He put food on the table and a roof over our heads. But there's something to be said for performance. There's plenty of research pointing to the connection between engaged workers and business performance. Companies with more engaged workers are more productive, they're more profitable, and they have greater connection to their customers. Companies with disengaged workers have a harder time retaining talent and growing revenue. Now, this doesn't just mean creating a survey and asking your employees what they think and then getting upset when they don't give you the score that you asked for. But COVID has blurred the lines of personal and professional personas. Many of us now have windows into our colleagues' homes, and we're seeing that humanity is brought into the workplace, where we used to have professional facades. It humanized our colleagues. Work is adjusting to these things as we're becoming more aware of coworkers' living rooms, dogs barking, and children popping in from time to time. This channel takes an unconventional view on the future of work and learning. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and leave a comment.